Title: The $1,000 Trap, a stolen car and a web of lies in Judge Judy's court. Imagine waking up one ordinary morning, heading to your driveway and finding an empty space where your car should be, a gutty punch of violation, a sinking feeling that your private world has been invaded. This is the exact nightmare that descended upon David Moore, a hardworking man whose prized 1995 Pontiac Grand Am, a car he had lovingly owned and relied upon for 3 long years, simply vanished into thin air on a seemingly normal July day. The police report filed on July 3rd, 2015, was a cold, formal acknowledgement of his loss, a piece of paper that did little to replace the freedom and security that had been so cruelly snatched from him. For weeks, David Moore lived with a gnawing sense of injustice, the phantom feeling of his car keys in his pocket, a constant, bitter reminder of what was gone. He wondered if he would ever see his vehicle again, picturing it in some far-off chop shop, being torn apart piece by faceless thieves. Little did he know that the trail to his stolen property was not in some distant, shadowy location, but was about to lead him right across the street from a place that should have been a haven for broken cars. Not a graveyard for stolen ones. The auto body shop owned by a man named Anthony Padilla. The discovery of the car was not a moment of triumph, but the beginning of a deeper, more perplexing mystery. Because when the Pontiac was found, it was a hollowed-out shell, a ghost of its former self, stripped of everything valuable. And it was David Moore's unwavering conviction that the businessman, Anthony Padilla, was the architect of this automotive dissection. The case now rests in the most formidable courtroom in television justice, presided over by the one and only Judge Judy, whose sharp eyes miss nothing and whose voice cuts through deception like a laser. She begins by establishing the facts with David Moore, her tone a blend of authority and a search for the raw truth. "Mr. Moore, your car was stolen," she states, not as a question, but as the foundational tragedy of this story. David Moore, his voice tinged with the residual hurt of the event, confirms, "Yes, ma'am." Judge Judy, holding the details in her mind like pieces of a puzzle, continues, "That was a 1995 Pontiac Grand Am." Again, David Moore affirms, "Yes, ma'am," each agreement a step deeper into the narrative of his loss. "How long had you had it?" Judge Judy probes, wanting the court to understand the personal investment, the time that transforms a mere vehicle into a personal belonging. "I had it 3 years," David Moore replies, and you can almost feel the memory of those years, the commutes to work, the grocery runs, the family trips, all now tainted by the theft. Then Judge Judy pivots to the bizarre twist of fate, the coincidence that stretches credulity. "And the car turned up right across the street from Mr. Padilla's auto body shop." The words hang in the air, heavy with implication. "Yes," David Moore says, a single word loaded with suspicion and accusation. The plot thickens under Judge Judy's meticulous examination. She turns her gaze to Anthony Padilla, the shop owner, a man now sitting in the hot seat, his story about to be put under a microscope. Judge Judy outlines the timeline, creating a map of the weeks in July 2015. The car was reported stolen on the 1st. Then, around the 18th, a stranger entered Anthony Padilla's world. "On what date, Mr. Padilla, did this person come in to try to sell you the car?" she demands. Anthony Padilla, perhaps shifting uncomfortably, offers a hesitant, "Maybe around the 18th or so. I'm not quite sure." "Of July?" Judge Judy presses, nailing down the time frame. "Of July, yes," he confirms. Now, Judge Judy begins to weave the tale of that fateful encounter from Anthony Padilla's own testimony. "Now, when he came in to sell you this car, you had never seen him before." "No, I had not," Padilla states. This is a crucial point, a complete stranger. But then comes the detail that changes everything, the red flag that should have been waving wildly. "But according to you, he offered to sell you the car for a very cheap price, for $1,000. Judge Judy lets the number resonate in the courtroom. $1,000 for a running car? It was an unbelievably, suspiciously low price. "For $1,000, yes," Anthony Padilla admits. "So that aroused your suspicion," Judge Judy states, her voice implying that this is the logical, inescapable conclusion for any sane businessman. "Yes, Your Honor," Padilla agrees. "Right?" "Yes." But here's where Anthony Padilla's story takes a turn that Judge Judy finds deeply, profoundly curious. He was suspicious, yes. He didn't want to buy the car, yes. But what did he do next? A good businessman, even a cautious one, would surely inspect the merchandise. So you said, "I'm not going to buy the car from you." But before you declined his offer, I assume if you're a businessman, you went out to look at the car. Anthony Padilla confirms this. "Yes, I did, Your Honor." And how did this stranger arrive? According to your answer, he drove the car up to your shop. Yes. So it was running. It was running. So far, so believable. A stranger with a cheap running car gets a look from a wary shop owner. But then the story becomes strange, almost unbelievable. Judge Judy, having digested every word of his prior statements, lays out the next sequence with the precision of a detective. And then you said you saw him park the car across the street from where your shop is, get out of the car, waited a few minutes. Somebody came to pick him up. Yes, Your Honor. And then the car was just left there. Yes, Your Honor. Let that sink in. A man, a complete stranger, tries to sell a car for a pittance, is refused, and then, instead of driving his perfectly operational vehicle away, he abandons it on the street right next to the shop. He just parks it, gets picked up by an accomplice, and leaves a $1,000 car, even in its stripped state a running vehicle has value, to sit unattended. This is the first major crack in Anthony Padilla's narrative, a crack that Judge Judy notes with a keen and skeptical eye. The heart of David Moore's grievance is then laid bare. Now, when Mr. Moore's car was found, Mr. Padilla, it wasn't in drivable condition. Someone had stripped it down. Is that correct, Mr. Moore? Yes, ma'am, David Moore replies, the pain of seeing his vehicle violated a second time evident in his voice. The theft was bad enough, but the stripping was a second, more intimate violation. Judge Judy clarifies the accusation for the court. And Mr. Moore thinks that you're responsible for that. You may not be responsible for stealing his car. He doesn't know that, right? Yes, ma'am. That's correct, says David Moore. But Mr. Moore thinks that you're responsible for stripping it down. This is the core of the case. It's a case about what happened after the abandoned car was left on that street. And to prove this, David Moore has not come alone. He has brought a secret weapon, a witness who claims to have seen what Anthony Padilla denies. Judge Judy zeroes in on this, telling Padilla, and he has somebody here with him who's a witness, because you said, I never went into the car, right? Then she makes a prediction, a testament to her years of experience seeing through lies. Now, I'm just guessing, maybe I'm wrong, that this is the person who saw Mr. Padilla in your car? Yes, ma'am, confirms David Moore. This is the witness that flagged the officer down. The stage is set for a classic confrontation. After reviewing the cold, hard facts of the police report, Judge Judy turns to the witness, a man named Eddie Lopez. Tell me your name, she instructs. Eddie Lopez, he replies. Judge Judy begins to establish Eddie Lopez's connection to the scene of the crime. Mr. Lopez, do you live close to where Mr. Padilla's shop is? Lopez explains that he doesn't live there, but he operated a tow truck service right next door at 1531 Bleep in Huntington Beach. This is critical. He was a regular presence in that very industrial landscape, a man who knew the comings and goings of the area. So you pass his shop, Judge Judy confirms. Yes, says Eddie Lopez. Then comes the moment of truth. I'd like you to tell me what you know, if anything, about Mr. Padilla doing work or doing something on Mr. Moore's car. Eddie Lopez doesn't hesitate. Well, probably for the car being out there when they found it. The police, after I flagged them down and said I had seen the car. He clarifies that he saw police by the abandoned car and approached them to offer crucial information. He told the officers that he had seen the car before it was left abandoned on the street. This is a bombshell. Judge Judy presses for details. For how long did you see it on the lot? Eddie Lopez responds, God, a few days on and off before that, out there. Seen people working on it and stuff like that. I thought they were just fixing it at first. The image is vivid and damning. The Pontiac wasn't just abandoned on the street one day. It was on Anthony Padilla's lot for days, and people were actively working on it. Judge Judy, like a master sculptor carving out the truth, asks a brilliant, simple question. Is there anything in particular about this car that drew your attention to the car? This is the question that separates a vague memory from a specific, credible observation. Eddie Lopez has the answer ready. The chrome wheels that it had on first. There was chrome wheels on it. The car had distinctive, eye-catching chrome wheels. Judge Judy then delivers the knockout punch, connecting this memory to the crime. When the car was put out in the street, did it have the chrome wheels on it? No, it didn't, Eddie Lopez states firmly. The picture is now complete and devastating for Anthony Padilla. The witness, an independent tow truck driver with no apparent grudge, saw the car on Padilla's property. He saw it when it still had its valuable, shiny chrome wheels. He saw people working on it. And then, when it magically appeared abandoned across the street, those prized wheels were gone. Judge Judy tries to see if there is a connection between the witness and the defendant that could suggest a motive to lie. Are you familiar with the people that Mr. Padilla has working for him? Not really, says Lopez, explaining his busy in-and-out schedule. Do you know Mr. Padilla? No, I've seen him around the business, but no, not really. With that, Judge Judy thanks him, and he sits down. She then turns to Anthony Padilla and delivers her assessment of the witness. This man has no particular axe to grind. Her words are final. She believes Eddie Lopez is a credible, neutral witness. She then reconstructs the entire damning timeline for Anthony Padilla, her voice rising with incredulity and finality. He says the car was on your lot. People were working on it, and when he first saw the car, what drew his attention to the car were these great wheels, which it didn't have when it was put out on the street. Mr. Padilla, explain that to me. This is his moment to offer a miracle, a logical explanation that can shatter this perfect circle of evidence. But what does Anthony Padilla do? He does not explain the wheels. He does not explain why the car was on his lot. He does not produce records or employees to corroborate his story. Instead, he attacks the witness. Yes, first the person here, Mr. Lopez, he is lying. He does not. I have been at that building since December. Actually, of 2014 all through 2015, and there has not been anybody with a tow company in that building. It is a desperate, weak defense, a simple denial in the face of specific, powerful testimony. From the gallery, David Moore can no longer contain his frustration. He's lying, Your Honor. He's lying, he interjects, the raw emotion of his long quest for justice boiling over. The scene is set. On one side, a car owner with a stripped vehicle and a solid, independent witness. On the other, a shop owner with a story about a mysterious stranger that defies belief and whose only defense is to call a man with no motive a liar. The tension in the courtroom is palpable. Every person watching knows that Judge Judy is about to render a verdict, and based on the mountain of circumstantial evidence and the complete collapse of Anthony Padilla's credibility under scrutiny, that verdict seems all but certain. The tale of the stolen Pontiac is more than a story about a car. It is a lesson in accountability, in the fact that suspicion alone is not enough to condemn a man, but that a chain of evidence, a cheap price, an abandoned vehicle, a credible witness with a sharp eye for chrome wheels can build a prison of truth around a lie from which there is no escape. Lesson for the listeners and viewers. The story of David Moore and Anthony Padilla teaches us a powerful lesson about responsibility and vigilance. Firstly, if a deal seems too good to be true, like a running car for only $1,000, it almost always is, and your suspicion should be a red flag that demands action, not just passive observation. Secondly, as a business owner or anyone in a position of trust, you have a duty to not only avoid wrongdoing, but to actively distance yourself from it. Failing to report a suspicious and abandoned vehicle, especially one that ends up stripped, creates a web of circumstantial evidence that is incredibly difficult to escape. Finally, this case underscores the immense value of a credible, independent witness, the everyday person who simply tells the truth about what they saw. The lesson is clear. Always trust your instincts, document everything, and understand that in the eyes of the law, your actions and your failures to act speak far louder than your words.